Need psychotherapy online or in person? Check out tinyurl.com/THT Psychotherapy. The George Brassey Podcast is made possible with funding provided from Brassey Global Strategies, LLC, a leading political consulting, public policy, government affairs, and research firm. Are you interested in running for elected office? Need advice? Call or email George, 708-769-5015. Brassey Global Strategies 1@gmail.com.
Snowstorm forces Chicago Heights to close City Hall. Snowstorm forces Chicago Heights to close City Hall, Chicago Heights, Illinois. Snow was on everybody's mind at Wednesday night's Chicago Heights City Council meeting. The Chicago area was hit by a major snowstorm, and Chicago Heights had about 10 inches of snow dumped on it Tuesday and Wednesday. City Hall was closed Wednesday afternoon because of the winter storm, and garbage pickup on Wednesday and Thursday was also postponed. And students at Chicago Heights School District 163 went to remote learning Wednesday because of the storm. The mayor's chief of staff, Karen Zaranti, thanked city workers for their efforts. She told the council that city workers had been working round the clock to keep city streets open and safe, and would continue to do so throughout the duration of the storm. Fifth Ward Alderman George Brassey also lauded city workers, saying, "The snowstorm we have experienced in recent days has been terrible, but the City of Chicago Heights Public Works Department has done an excellent job in maintaining the roads during the snowstorm. Each and every resident's request that was submitted to my office was addressed in a quick and efficient fashion." Christopher Bykoskas, 4th Ward Alderman, added that Public Works is working diligently, doing a great job cleaning up the streets. In other business, Zaranti said that the city would be hosting its second Illinois Department of Public Health clinic offering vaccinations and booster shots 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Saturday, February 12 at City Hall. The council also approved an ordinance renewing the city's employee health insurance policy and premium. The city expects to see premiums remain roughly the same. The city's benefits and insurance consultant told the council that he was able to negotiate lower rates with its insurer, Blue Cross/Blue Shield PPO, despite higher prescription drug usage by the 231 employees covered under the policy. Snowstorm forces Chicago Heights to close City Hall.
Before we get to the interview, I just want to tell you about our newest sponsor, Union Signs and Printing. Union Signs and Printing is a union sign shop located near Chicago, Illinois, that specializes in the production of corrugated plastic lawn signs used in applications ranging from political and election usages to unions, schools, and businesses. They also produce a vast array of other products, including American-made, union-printed t-shirts, banners, bio cards, literature, door hangers, business cards, and trifold. Get a hold of Union Signs and Printing at 815-740-1688 or find them on the internet at unionsignsandprinting.com. And don't forget to tell them you heard about their services on the George Brassey Podcast. That's a welcome to the George Brassey Podcast. My friend, colleague, and one of the best psychiatrists in the state of Illinois, Dr. Balin Durr, to the show. Dr. Durr, thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you so much for having me and for such a wonderful introduction, George. Really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And I know you have a wonderful story to tell, so let's get right into it. Tell the audience a little bit about what was behind your decision to become a psychiatrist. What led to it?
Well, initially, I made the decision to become a physician in junior high school. And I was so, I think, kind of enthralled about the wonders of human development and bringing life into the world that I decided to become an obstetrician gynecologist. And once I went to medical school, though, as much as I loved OB, I really didn't like being a surgeon. So I said, okay, God, what do you have for me here? What do you have for me next? And so one of the required rotations is psychiatry. And when I got to psychiatry, I realized, this is my flow right here. And I love talking to the patients and having time to do that and getting to know them and their stories and, not only what was going on, but why it was going on. And then many years later, when I looked back, I realized that the desire to do that was already within me, meaning I was trying to learn or trying to figure out really um, some things about my childhood, what happened, why it happened, and just have some understanding. And then also recognize that I had actually been, even in high school, been watching. He was a family therapist and an addiction specialist on PBS that he was doing specials, and I was watching them even in high school. So it's funny how didn't recognize then that I would become a psychiatrist, but it was already in place for that to happen, given those specific dynamics.
When you're in medical school and you come to the realization that OB/GYN is not really for you, was that a hard realization?
You know what? Interestingly enough, it wasn't. Meaning, OB was really the only thing that OB-GYN was really the only thing that I wanted to do. But I quickly realized that, okay, I'm here, and this led me this far, and I need to change directions. I don't know what direction that is, but I just trusted that that the Creator would guide me where I needed to go as it related to my profession. And so I was just open, and that's why I said, "Okay, what you have for me next?" And and then it presented itself, meaning what I was supposed to be doing presented itself, which was psychiatry.
And when you think about when you came into the field of psychiatry compared to now, what are some of the changes you've witnessed?
Oh wow. Um, well, clearly there's the evolution in our understanding of certain mental illnesses. There is the evolution and the expansion of the treatment options that we have to treat certain mental illnesses. So, and then so there are those things, but I think the third thing, and it was already happening by the time I got to residency, which I started residency in 1996, and I was actually in a triple board program, meaning initially I was supposed to be doing peds, then adult psychiatry, then child psychiatry, but switched over to general psychiatry and then child. And that was and so in that process of that happening, so again, that was 95, and then psychiatry started in 96. It was already there was already a shift to biological psychiatry, meaning the focus of, what's wrong with the brain physically, and then the treatment of that, using, medications, medical evaluations, and other medical options, medical treatment options. So, and what's happened is it's even become more so now, which in some respects I think is very good, because some of the other treatment options that have occurred or that have been developed, that option is there. But I think the downside to it is there's also this focus on, getting patients seen and getting it done, quickly. So the time that would have been there to really spend time talking to patients and really getting to know them and understanding their why, that's what has been decreased significantly. And I think it's actually a disadvantage.
In what ways do you think it complicates the treatment to kind of try to see as many people, get as many people in, and not understand the why? How does it complicate the treatment of patients?
Because if you don't understand the why, you can't change the what. And what I mean by that is that if I don't understand, you know, what if I excuse me, if I don't understand why you want to do something or why you don't want to do something, then I'm not in a good position to help you, because there may be things you're willing to do or things you're not willing to do to help improve your brain health. And if I don't know what that is, then I can't have a conversation with you about it. I can't address your concerns. I can't say, well, you're correct about this, but this actually is something else instead. This other one is something else instead. And this will actually be helpful to you for these reasons. If I don't understand that, if I don't understand a person's cultural context, if I don't understand who they are, if I don't understand their history, then I'm not in a position to really be helpful. We need to be able to form relationship and then rapport. I need to be able to do that in order to be of help to somebody. And if that's missing, which usually requires time, then I'm really not in a good position to be helpful.
Psychiatry is one of the more misunderstood medical professions in my uh, understanding. What do you think people really get wrong about psychiatry?
I think that and so I laugh because there is so much I think that people don't know about psychiatry, even from the basics, such as they don't know the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist. And I find that at all educational levels. So even when people have master's degrees, um, they confuse what a psychologist and a psychiatrist is. So I think from the very basic level, there is a lot of information that's not known. So whether it's that, and then it's the understanding the differences between what a psychologist does versus the difference between what a psychiatrist does, what the overlap is. I don't think that people really understand that as a psychiatrist, what I'm here to do is to help you with your mental health. Mental health is a combination of brain health, which is brain structure and brain function, but it's also the thoughts you think. So all of that has to be healthy, and they're interacting and influencing each other. So I'm here to offer you my skill set and my tool set to help you improve your brain health and your thought health in order for you to have a healthy life and the life that you want to live. So I don't think people understand those things, and particularly that brain health is essential to your ability to live the fullest, best life here on the planet. And that's a lot of what I do as a psychiatrist, to take a look at that and see what's working properly, what's functioning properly, what's not. And here are the options that we can help make these corrections.
Dr. Durr, you mentioned previously during your own time in medical school that you asked for guidance from God, and it sounds like faith is really important to you. What role does spirituality, religious faith, what does that do to a person's mental health in your opinion?
Well, I think, like all things, it can, depending upon what your perspective is and how you use something, that it can be very helpful, or it can become a barrier. And what I mean by that is from the perspective of um, that I gave, which is asking for counsel and asking for guidance, and then being asked, and then being open to hearing, to listening, and then being willing to do what I'm guided to do. So I think that if my inner self, my God self is prompting me to do a certain thing, to seek help, then it's very helpful. However, on the flip side, if I say strictly, that, God is going to heal me without recognizing, and I don't need to go get any help, meaning God's going to heal me. I don't need to get any help. That can become a barrier because sometimes the getting help comes through a human being. And so, for instance, if I'm guided to get help, then going to see a psychiatrist in this case who can help me with an evaluation and assess what the issue is, and then coming up with some treatment options, including therapy, then and then it may also include nutrition. It can be a variety of different treatment options beyond medication, and medication it may not be at all. But the point is, the help and the guidance is coming through a human being. Excuse me. So that's the important part, that it not become a barrier or obstacle to saying, I'm just going to do this with God. And sometimes God works through other people in our lives. And so it's important to keep that in mind.
Dr. Durr,
And you know what, George, I'm sorry. I just want to add this one part too. The other part that actually that I find very helpful in my own practice, is specifically as it regards to spirituality, is because for people of faith, I actually endeavor to use their faith as a framework of which to help them with their thinking that may be really negative, maybe very fearful, maybe in the way of them, feeling, happiness or joy or contentment with their lives. So I think that's that's a really important way, and why to use spirituality, and why faith is really important with patients, because there's certain things I can point out to them, such as when they don't love themselves, and use their faith to say, well, but God always loves you. And it's important that you forgive yourself of whatever happened or didn't, instead of refusing to love yourself. So that's kind of an example of what I mean about how I'll use their faith to help their healing. So I think it's very important, actually.
I agree. Oftentimes, I think what you're describing is what we've come to think of as spiritual bypass. I'll pray it away. I'll see my pastor, but sometimes it's really important to seek professional help.
I love that. I have never heard that before. A spiritual bypass. Is it
Oh,
okay is it okay if I borrow that, George?
hey, it's all yours. I didn't trademark it.
Okay. But yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, I really like that. So yeah,
Dr.
thank
Durr,
you.
no problem. Dr. Durr, one of the big changes since I've been in the field of mental health has been the transition from DSM-4 to DSM-5. Do you have any thoughts on that? I know the DSM is primarily written by psychiatrists.
Well, I think, like all of life, it's growing and transforming, and changing and becoming more based upon an increased a better understanding. And so I think it is an attempt to standardize and to give some clarification to diagnosis, and which I think is really important. You always want to have some standardization of, what is depression, what is general anxiety, what is bipolar affective disorder. You don't want to have, multiple, definitions. And so I think, again, it's just an evolution in the understanding of, mental health, mental illness, diagnosis, and the intersection of some things, the recognition of some other diagnosis, some other newer diagnosis. So I think it's important.
Dr. Durr, you also have a podcast. Tell the listeners a little bit about your podcast, what led you to make that, and how they can hear that.
Well, the name of my podcast is Today's Mental Health, and there are three topics: um, suicide, depression, and addictions. and it can be found on most streaming platforms, including Buzzsprout and Apple Podcasts. And what led me to make the podcast is actually part of my own journey at this point, which is it's really important to me to help people understand the critical importance in their lives of mental health, which again, to me means brain health, again, which is brain structure and function, and then also thought health, the thoughts we think. And what I found is there is such a huge lack of information in the general public about what brain health is, what thought health is, what constitutes, depression and addiction and many other mental health disorders, but also the huge stigma. And so around mental health and seeking mental health treatment. And so what that means, it's a barrier to people getting what they need. People inherently understand that if you're brain dead, your life is done. You may be on life supports and your body may be functioning, but the things that you would normally do, the roles and functions you would normally fulfill of, working and maybe having a maid and raising children and all those things that make up a life, that's done and over with. But however, there's this disconnect between if I'm brain health, that my life is over, there's a disconnect between that and then the recognition and understanding that my brain must be healthy in order for me to live my best life, the life that I want, for me to be able to work, to me to be creative, to take care of my children, all those things that matter to human beings and whatever that looks like for you, that my brain must be healthy, must be functioning properly in order for me to do that. And so then people are not seeking help for what is essential and critical in their lives, which is making sure they have a healthy brain. And so while they may go to a surgeon to get help if they have a broken leg, they don't tend to translate it in the same way of thinking, well, I don't know how to heal my leg, so let me go to a surgeon. Well, I don't know how to heal my brain, let me go see a psychiatrist. I don't know how to fix my car. I'm not going to abandon it on the side of the road and never come back and get it. I need somebody to help fix it. Let me find a mechanic. There's all these things where we understand we don't know all there is to know in the universe, and we seek help from other people because we don't know how to do it in order to take care of, fix those things in our lives. But then translating that to brain health. I don't know how to do this. Let me see a psychiatrist, or let me see a therapist. Let me seek help and make use of their skill set and their tool set, because I don't know how to do this on my own in order for me to have a healthy brain. So that's what actually was the impetus for the podcast. For me, it was another tool to help inform people, because while I talk about those three topics, again, depression, addiction and suicide, I'm also explaining some of the things we've talked about, the differences between, a psychiatrist and a psychologist, and an LCPC and LCSW. And I'm talking about alternative treatments, such as nutrition and acupuncture and other things. Because I want people to understand that you need two things to build a good or great or quality product, which is quality raw materials and quality workmanship. So some of the things that your brain needs to be healthy are things like, vitamins and minerals, chromium, zinc, selenium, magnesium. And if you don't have those things, then your brain can't function properly. And so then you're going to have problems with your mood. You may have problems with with negative thoughts that take over, have problems sometimes with impulsivity and, motivation. It's your speech. It's your brain needs certain things, certain raw materials to function properly and to be healthy. So basic things like that are things that people can do in order to have a healthy brain themselves. It's just kind of basic nutrition.
Dr. Durr, the last question we ask on this podcast to all our guests are, what are 2 books that have been important and influential to you as a person, and why?
Well, 2 of the books that have been, and there have been many, frankly. Because I read a lot, but 2 of the ones that come to mind would be Conversations with God, and that's by Neil Donald Walsh. And then there's also In the Meantime by Iyanla Vanzant. And the Conversations with God was important because I got to see someone actually having conversations, and he wrote the conversations down. So actually, when I wrote my own book, Heaven Abounds in You, one of the things that I did is I immediately, as I was writing the book, that started happening for me. So I immediately started writing those conversations down. And it also helped me to understand that if God is someone, the creator is someone that I'm speaking to, it only makes sense that he would speak back to me, right? That's what a conversation is, and it's an exchange. It's not a one way. I'm talking to you and you never respond. Then Iyanla's In the Meantime, it was just so beautifully written. It was so spoke to my heart and helped me. It talked about healing in the context of a house and the different stories. So the basement, first floor, second floor, third floor, fourth floor. But he talked about healing in a way that, again, that was just so warm and so heart touching, and so beautifully written. And it was the beginning. I think I had been searching before that, but really the beginning, I think, for me of having some real understanding about how to begin the healing process.
Dr. Balin Durr, thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
Well, thank you so much. And again, I hope that your listeners will check out my podcast, Today's Mental Health. Again, it's on most streaming platforms, Buzzsprout, Apple, Pandora, Spotify. And I hope that they will find their own, health and healing. I hope that they will recognize that they are children of the universe made of stardust. And therefore there is no inadequacy in them. They are wonderful, and I hope that they will accept that and live out their own wonderfulness in the way that they were designed to be, and the fulfillment of their purpose that serves us all.
Absolutely. Dr. Balin Durr, thanks again.
Thank you so much, George. Appreciate you.
Take care.
Stay wonderful.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Help George stay on the Chicago Heights City Council. Go and donate today at tinyurl.com/AldermanGeorge 2023. Need more George? Like his pages on Facebook. Friends of George Brassey PAC, Fifth Ward Business Alliance, Chicago Heights Bicycle and Pedestrian Resource Center, and the George Brassey Podcast.